students, myself Pinky Singh, Assistant Professor, IMS Law College, Noida. Today I will tell you about the sources of Hindu law. The Hindu law is one of the most ancient systems of the law known to the world, and it was also correctly observed by the many that Hindu law has the oldest pedigree of any known system of jurisprudence and has not shown any signs of decrepitude even today. So, under the sources of Hindu law, there are two types of sources. First one are the ancient sources and second are the modern sources. In ancient sources, I will tell you about the Shrutis, Smritis, commentaries and digest customs. And under the modern sources, I will tell you about what are the equity, justice and good conscience, precedent and legislation. So, what is Hindu law? Particularly, the concept of Hindu law is deeply rooted in Hindu philosophy and religion. According to Hindu philosophy, the ultimate aim of life is to achieve the salvation, means the moksha from the physical world. Because Hindu believes that the human body is mortal but the soul is immortal, and the chain of birth and death continues till the soul attains salvation, means moksha from this particular world. And it is believed that Hindu law is a divine law and it was relieved to the people by God through Vedas. And our various sages have elaborated and refined this particular abstract concept of life, which was particularly explained in our Vedas. And from thousands of years, peoples living in Indian subcontinent have been leading their lives by following the guidelines and concepts which is present in the Vedas. What are the meaning of sources? Sources means the basis of Hindu law which is evolved, means from what particular sources are there or what are the bases on which these particular sources are based. It enables the court to interpret law. Source of law is a method by which the rules have been discovered or created. Source of law may be literary or material. Now, Hindu law is credited to be the most ancient law of system, and it was present in our system or our world more than of 6,000 years. And that's why under this Hindu law we kept the sources of Hindu law under the two, ancient and modern sources. Now, what are the ancient sources? Ancient sources are what? Which include the Shruti, Vedas, Smritis, Dharma Shastra, commentaries, digest, custom and usage. Okay, these are the ancient sources. First one, Shruti. What are the Shruti? It literally means that what is heard. Shruti or Veda are which have been revealed to and heard by the inspired sages. This is the Shruti. In theories, the primary and paramount source of law is what? It is the Shrutis. And Shrutis consist of 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Arth Veda. These are the 4 Vedas on which, or we can say, the Shrutis consist of these 4 Vedas. Like if I am saying that Rig Veda, it contains hymns which is in Sanskrit and which was recited by the chief priest. Second one is the Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda contains the formula to be recited by the officiating priest. And next is Samved. Samved consists of verses to be chanted by seers. And Arth Veda containing a collection of spells and incantations, stories, predictions, etc. Smritis. What are the Smritis? Smritis, or we can say Dharma Shastra. Smritis literally means what is remembered. Smritis were recollected and created by the inspired sages and is believed to be based on lost texts of Vedas, although not in the exact language of the revelation. The Smritis are considered to have emanated from the deity in the sense that though they are not in the very words of God, but embody what sages remember from revelations. So what Smriti thus implies? It implies that human agency in the declaration of the law, which is the both substantive as well as procedures. So what we can say? We can say that Smritis are of human origin. Further, these Smritis are divided into two: Dham Shutras, which is, we can say, the prose style, and Dhan Shastras, which is the poetry styles. In Shutras are the short statements formulating the broad and general principles of common senses, like they are concise in expression, comprehensive in meaning, and very easily rememberable. And some Dhamshustras are which are famous or are that the Gautam, Buddhyan, Harit, Vishnu, Vashisht. And the Dharma Shastra, the famous Dharma Shastra are Manu Smriti, Narad Smriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti. So this is the Smritis. Next is our digest and commentaries. After these Smritis, the next step in the development of Hindu law was the composition of commentaries and digest, which was based upon the Smritis. What are the this commentary and digest? These are the commentaries are an orderly explanation of sutras, or we can say shlokas, whereas the digest are compilation of all the relevant material from the several sources on one topic of law. Okay, and the two principal commentaries are Mitakshara, and second one is the Dayabhaga. Mitakshara is a commentary on Yajnavalkya by the Vijneshwara, and Dayabhaga by Jimutwahana. These two are the two main commentaries, Mitakshara and Dayabhaga. Basically, if I can say, Mitakshara talks about the it's preferred and it's prevail all over the India except the Bengal and Assam, and Dayabhaga prevail on Bengal and Assam, and specifically Dayabhaga deals with the partition and inheritance. Fourth ancient source is the custom and usages. Custom and usages in general have played a very vital role in the evolution of law. From the earliest period, Achara is considered to be the highest dharma, means achar, or we can say sadachar, means the approved custom. So custom, what is the, this is the third source, and achara is regarded as the highest dharma. Custom is the principal source and its position are next to the Shrutis and Smritis, but usage of custom prevails over the Smritis. But with the passage of time, the original body of customs was defined and reshaped by the great sages. And if there is any disagreement between the Smritis and custom, the custom has a upper hand because it is in the practice. And this custom must be ancient. The particular usage must have been practiced for a long time, and it must be accepted by the common consent as a governing rule of a particular society. So what we can say that our Smritis and commentaries were largely based upon the customary laws and on matters which was not covered by the Smritis and commentaries. Usage supplements the law as laid down in them. Now next are the modern sources of Hindu law. Sources of modern sources are consist of justice, equity, good conscience, precedent, and legislation. What is justice, equity, and good conscience? In India, the origin of equality is traced to the Hindu period when jurists explains the old law and gave new rules of interpretation and equitable solution in cases of conflict between the rules of various laws. But if any conflict occurs between the rules of Smriti, that one should be followed, which is based on a reason, justice, and principle of equity. but the courts cannot refuse to settle the dispute in the absence of any law. They are under the obligation to decide such a case also. Though the ancient Hindu law had also the concept of equity, justice, and good conscience, but yet the modern version becomes more popular, and in its modern version our equity, justice, and good conscience owes its origin to the beginning of the British period, or we can say British administration of justice in India. And this principle in our country has enjoyed the status of a source of law since the 18th century. I already told you, when the Britishers or British administration comes to India and they govern us. Next is the precedent. It is a very important source of modern sources of Hindu law, because what is precedent? This precedent, or we can say judicial decision, are regarded as the precedent for future cases. A precedent is not merely an evidence of law but a source of it, and the courts of law are bound to it. Today, the decisions of Privy Council are binding on all the lower courts in India, except where they have been modified or altered by the Supreme Court, whose decisions are binding on all the courts except for itself. So, this is the precedent, or we can say what are the precedent are a very rich source of law. We can say like a gold mine in the field of Hindu law. During the British regime, the English judges were facing very great difficulties in interpreting the Sanskrit texts. However, the Judicial Committee of Privy Council and the High Courts in India have given judgments in such a large measure that all the important points of law are included. So, these precedent upon the various points have developed as an important source of law and immensely contributed to the growth of Hindu law. And there are a number of important issues of Hindu law on which the legislation are silent. Third source is the legislation. Legislation has now become the potential and modern source of Hindu law and has a colossal importance in the evolution of modern Hindu law. Prior to the British regime, the law of Hindus was scattered. In different parts of the country, there were different rules and practices. It was difficult to find the fixed principle of law on several areas. Codification has become a necessity not only for the sake of uniformity of law but also to abrogate practices which were not approved by the public and which were regarded as barbarous and inhumane. After India achieved independence, some important aspects of Hindu law have been codified. Few examples are Hindu Marriage Act 1955, Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956, the Hindu Succession Act 1956, Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956. After the codification, any point dealt with by the codified law is final, and after the enactment of the laws, if I am talking about right now the Hindu Marriage Act or Hindu laws, it overrides all the prior laws, whether based on the custom or otherwise, unless an express saving is provided for in the enactment itself. In matters not specifically covered by the codified law, the old textual laws continues to have application. Now, I want to now conclude the sources of Hindu law. In the arena of personal laws, Hindu law play a very vital role, and it governs the persons who come within the purview of Hindu. So, who are Hindus? So, this particular act applicable on all those persons who comes under the purview of this Hindu law. And in the ancient period, Hindu law had only its divine nature, law of the God. But nowadays, its nature has totally changed, because its divine nature has been seized by its interpretation, enacting laws, and also by the judicial precedent. So, by the interpretation of ancient sources of Hindu law, its scope has become very wide. Modern sources of Hindu law has now a particular colossal importance and in the evolution of modern Hindu law. So, thank you students. So, here Now I am going to end my discussion here on the sources of Hindu law. Thank you so much.